You're watching World Harvest Television.
Coming up on today's Harvest, the search for stem cells. Dr. Gabriel Lasala and Chuck Naparella join us to demystify and clarify embryonic stem cell research. And is unforgiveness destroying your marriage? Pastor Michael Berry gets frank about infidelity in the Forgiveness Project. Also, Brian Bush will join us later on live with an update from Israel. So don't go anywhere. The Harvest Show starts now.
TCA Cellular Therapy is a privately held biotherapeutics company whose focus is on adult stem cell therapies for treatments of life-threatening diseases. Here to talk about that is CEO of TSA Charles Naparella and Medical Director Gabriel Lasala. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. And I want to get right into it, the stem cell research, because for a lot of Christians or conservatives, that is sort of a very taboo thing. What do you guys think about that? And what kind of work do you do with the stem cells?
We do adult stem cell research. So we take adult stem cells from adults. And adult stem cells are considered adult from the time a baby is born. So umbilical cord blood is considered adult stem cells.
Okay.
And the cells that we take from bone marrow are typically the adult stem cells that we use to treat patients.
Okay, so let's kind of break it down for people who are like me and have really no idea what a stem cell even is. Well, what is it and why is it so important that for testing and things like that?
A stem cell is a cell that has the ability to self-renew and to multiply indefinitely and to differentiate in different tissues. So it's extremely important. This is where all our bodies and organs come from.
Sure.
Well, we know that embryonic stem cell research is extremely controversial and a hot button issue for Christians and non-believers alike. So tell us, what's the difference between the two?
The differences are very significant. There are different types of adult stem cells. For instance, if we take a type of adult stem cell, and that cell can become a muscle or cartilage or bone. The fate of that cell, what the cell will become, it will depend on the organ that you place the cell or the organ that is inflamed. So it's like the cell has little antennas, you know, and the organs send signals. Those are called homing factors. So the cell goes to a muscle, and that cell becomes a muscle. The same cell, you put it in cartilage, and it will become cartilage. So the fate of the cell depends on the organ and the inflamed tissue where the cells is going to go.
Okay.
An embryonic stem cell is completely different. They don't have these antennas. Because in embryonic stages, there is no organs. Organs start developing, you know, after 2 months of conception.
Yeah.
So these cells don't have antennas, and the fate of the cell is not determined by the organ. It's in the cell itself.
Okay.
By being in the cell itself, you cannot see, so you cannot predict what the cell is going to become.
So where exactly does an embryonic stem cell come from?
From embryos.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as far as the adult stem cells, where do you get those?
Usually from the bone marrow.
Okay.
From umbilical cord blood. Sometimes you can get it from blood by mobilizing or shaking out the bone marrow with some chemicals.
So I want to really explain this so that people at home can understand. Let's say that she has a life-threatening disease, and I can help her. How am I going to help her through you with an adult stem cell?
We can take stem cells from her and use these stem cells.
So you don't need me at all. It's all her.
Yeah, we can take stem cells from her.
That's called
This is called autologous, yes.
Okay. When it comes from the person, the individual.
It comes from the person.
Okay.
But it can also come from another person. For some kind of cells, you can do that. That's called allogeneic. So for certain cells, she can take cells from you, but not all cells from you.
Sure.
Okay. So either with her cells or your cells, you can multiply the cells and place the cells in the organ that needs the cells to rebuild new tissue or new cells, and the cells will grow and develop the tissue.
So you guys have seen a lot of amazing things. You're treating people with life-threatening diseases. What's some of the more, amazing things that you've seen?
We've seen some dramatic results, especially with our leg ischemia study. It's an FDA-approved clinical study in humans where patients have very low blood flow to their lower extremities. It becomes very painful. Tissue starts to die. People can lose their toes, and eventually it's so painful that individuals have to have amputations. And we've been able to have a very high success rate in our phase 2 clinical trial where all 26 patients received our adult stem cells, and all 26 patients had a positive result.
Okay, so if I check into the hospital, what's going to happen if I need it for this procedure that you just talked about? First of all, what does a stem cell look like? Can you describe it for me?
Well, it is a cell, so cells are different. For instance, there are hematopoietic stem cells that will give rise to blood cells. They're all rounded, There are mesenchymal stem cells that will give rise to muscle and bone and cartilage. They're elongated, they're long. So it just depends what cell.
Okay, so when you harvest my cells, my stem cells, and then you will do...
We would wash them out. And
Okay.
we would
Just kind of put them
extract
on ice, or what do you do with them?
We actually don't put them on ice. We put them in a special lab that we have set up in Covington, Louisiana, and we expand those cells from about 2,000 to about 50 million.
Okay.
We grow those cells to be about 50 million, and then we would inject those into whatever area of your body we thought we could help regenerate those tissues.
Okay, so basically what you're doing is just then improving the tissue of where you're putting it? Is that the way it works?
That's correct, yes.
That's absolutely
And
correct.
you're currently doing that for cardiovascular system, nervous system, skeletal, and the muscular system. What are you hoping to, you want to broaden that as well? What are the areas of the body?
Well, this is unlimited,
Okay.
But we can do one thing at a time. So we're treating cardiovascular diseases, and we started to treat neurological diseases, but we know we can treat, ALS because we're treating ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. That's a devastating disease.
Yes,
People
my
don't live
uncle
more-
passed away from, he had Lou Gehrig's
it's
disease.
a horrible disease, and people don't live more than 4 years.
Yeah.
Spinal cord injuries, we're using stem cells for spinal cord injuries. But these cells can be used for many other neurologic problems, but we have to take one step at a time.
Well, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about maybe the future of stem cells. Don't go anywhere. We'll return in just a moment. And we're back with Charles Naparella and Gabriel Lasala, both from TCA Cellular Therapies. There we go. And this is a Christian show, so I have to ask you, the Christian community, it seems like, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like at least over the last 10 years, maybe even longer, has been a little bit at odds with the scientific community. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a misconception that all stem cells are alike, and that most stem cells are derived from embryonic sources.
Okay.
And I think that has a lot to do with the mass media, and they really have I think a left-leaning move or tilt towards embryonic stem cells in general. As it turns out, that's not the case. Most of the worldwide stem cell research that's really moving towards human studies are using adult stem cells.
Okay, so in talking about, I'm a regular guy, adult stem cell, embryonic stem cell, it sounds like basically the exact same thing to me. You guys talked about that it is different. And in the break, we're talking a little bit about the unpredictability of an embryonic stem cell. Explain that.
Well, because the adult stem cell is in a later stage of development, it's much more predictable what the cell is going to become. So if you put a specific cell in muscle or cartilage or bone, it's going to become muscle, cartilage, or bone. If you put an embryonic stem cell, you don't know whether the cell is going to become muscle, cartilage, a tooth, hair, skin. You don't know. It's completely unpredictable. You don't even know whether it's going to become a cancer cell.
Okay.
So what is the relationship between embryonic stem cell research and abortion? Because that's where the rubber meets the road, I think, for a lot of believers.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these sources for research now in embryonic stem cells, those were derived from embryos.
Okay. Now the case, it seems like for embryonic stem cell research is that we want to prevent diseases, and that we can help eradicate, a lot of these horrible things from mankind. What do you guys say to that?
I think it is too early to make that assertion. Embryonic stem cells have not demonstrated that.
Okay.
This has been proven.
But in the adult stem cells, you have seen, people obviously
yes.
become well.
Yeah, with adult stem cells, yes.
Okay.
You say that there's a paradigm shift in adult stem cell research and regenerative medicine. What is that shift?
Well, a paradigm shift is when you have something unexpected completely and it changes the course of medicine or history. This is, to me, like when penicillin was discovered. It took 12 years for penicillin to be used for the first time. And people were hesitant and they were reluctant to believe what Dr. Fleming discovered. And it wasn't up until the World War II that penicillin was used, and they were able to develop a powder that would last long enough to treat the soldiers. So there was a shift. And I think stem cells is the same thing. As you mentioned earlier, people have the conception that stem cells is just embryonic stem cells, and they're reluctant to everything. Well, there is a lot being done with adult stem cells, and we have very good results with adult stem cells.
So you have very good results. I want to ask you, what percentage of people actually, get better? We were talking about if Valerie, had a problem with her muscle, you take some out, you put it in your incubator, what have you, it grows, you put it back in. What's the success rate?
That's a great question, Drew. For instance, for limb ischemia, which is patients who have severe blockages in the arteries of the legs, and they're going to have an amputation, they can't tolerate the pain, they can't walk. All of the patients who were treated with stem cells improve to different degrees. All of them improve. For patients who have severe heart disease, most of them improve, not all of them. Some patients did not improve. In patients, for instance, with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, these patients are most of the time paralyzed, they're very sick. Our patients improve a little bit, or we were able to slow down the progression of disease. And we have improved some muscle strength in patients with Lou Gehrig's disease. We've never been able to make somebody walk who couldn't walk. So this is early. I mean, we're learning with this. I think that it's working. It's not curing the disease yet. So it's not 100% success.
Okay. So what is the future then, moving forward? Is this something that's really going to catch on, and one day, it's just going to be, well, we just use adult stem cell therapy and
well, it's going to take what took for penicillin, the military, to put enough money to do the research.
The military?
To do the research to develop the powder to treat the soldiers. So at this time, the problem with stem cell research is underfunded.
Yeah.
And, with funds, we can really move on to the next stage.
Well, Chuck, what's the difference between TCA Cellular Therapy and other companies? Because there are quite a few companies, I understand, that are out there doing stem cell research.
Valerie, that's a great question. We are the only privately held adult stem cell research company in the United States. All other research companies who are doing adult stem cell research and even embryonic stem cell research are funded by either for-profit large pharmaceutical companies or by large federally funded grants from the federal government.
So in that way, in that regard, then we can trust what you your research, because it's not dictated by the federal government or...
That's a great point. That's exactly right. So we're sort of a David and Goliath story. We're also, one more point, is we are totally and completely started by scientists. I'm probably really the first businessman, first CEO to come on board after 5 years of Gabriel and Dr. Miguel doing nothing but pure research. And there was no hint of anything but making sure that the product they were developing was working.
Now, Valerie has already mentioned this, but I just want to make sure this is clear for all our viewers. What are the best diseases, I guess is the best way I can put it, for somebody who would be a good candidate for adult stem cell therapy?
For heart diseases, limb ischemia or circulation problems, neurologic diseases like ALS, Lou Gehrig's, spinal cord injuries, and we wanted to expand this to multiple sclerosis and other diseases, muscular dystrophy. So those are the fields that we're covering now, but the potential is tremendous.
Well, guys, we Thank you so much for coming on. My knowledge level is about here, and you guys are,
Yes.
are way up here. So if you want to learn more, you can go to tcatherapy.com, or you can go to our website, harvest-tv.com, for an easy link back to their website. Guys, thanks so much. We'll be back with Brian Bush in just a moment.